And here we are, and we are live on God's Economy. Thank you, Njila, for having me. How are you doing today? Okay, and yes, we are actually showing at a different time today for everybody who's used to this. So thank you very much, Njila. Thanks again. Thank you very much for being here with me, and thank you very much to everybody who is joining us. And today is going to be quite an interesting conversation. Today's going to be a little bit of an interesting conversation because we're going to be talking mainly about the driving force of your life's momentum, and also of trying to have an abundant life. So, for everybody who joins us here today, I know that you're seeing this at a different time. It's a bit confusing. We are scheduling God's Economy at a little bit of a different time. You will be seeing a little bit of a change in our roster, but thank you very much for all of this. But to get into it, Angela, and for everybody here, but to get into it, I will be starting with and I am starting a new session on trying to build momentum for this year. For these next 3 months, I want to be really going through things like building momentum and building the driving force, because I always believe that this year is actually that the first quarter of the year is actually where you build up steam. Most of your impact happens in the second and the third quarter, and we do the victory lap in the fourth quarter, in the fourth quarter of the year. But this one is very critical because it is the starting point, and it is the trigger point for us to actually get moving. Um, so it is a trigger point for us to get moving. So getting started with this, actually, Njila, something I will be announcing to people is that I am starting what I call a 12-week focus period, where I will be going into my life and going through all the main things and saying what are the habits, and I want to have 12 weeks of adherence to strict habits in faith, in focus at work, in finance, in fitness. Like these four quadrants I've really put, and also a bit of flourish and a bit of family. But I'm going to be putting a lot of focus in the 5 out of the 6 areas of my life, which is my faith, my faith, focus, finance, fitness, and my flourish, because I'll be working on those areas mainly in this area, and I'm focusing on what habits can I implement in this period. So it is about building the momentum. So I've got this nice little checklist of things I have to do every day and week. And I have to really now adhere to it. For these next 12 weeks, I put my head down, switch off everything, switch off a lot of the indulgences and the distractions, and focus on making sure that I can take off all these things and build the momentum in the habits. That's mainly going to be my focus in this area. So I invite as many people to join me on that journey. I'm actually going to be announcing it and starting it tomorrow for everyone, because it's really a way I'd like to start my year. And I want to encourage as many people, if they want to join me on it, go ahead. But this is really for me and everyone. You're free to join me as well, Njida. You're actually free to join me as well.
I'll think about it. I will.
Don't worry, you don't have to. I'm just saying you're just free to. So let's talk today about the story of momentum. I really want to now build on this issue of building momentum and the driving force behind your momentum. I think that's a very key and critical component today. And the main thing I want to talk about is we will be talking about things like the 4 skills, money making, and money management. These are things I want to talk about later. They're the 4 M's I call of the 4 key money skills I want to really go through this year, which is making money, managing money, multiplying money, and maintaining money. These are 4 key skills, and I want to try and wrap them in trying to make sure that we do as much wisdom guidance in all of these areas. But the first thing I wanted to talk about today is the purpose of life and the driving force behind you doing as much of the right thing as possible is the purpose of life. And I'd like to also just encourage everybody who's here with us, give us a thumbs up, tell us where you're listening from if you're on social media, and you're free to try and reach out to us if you're out there as well. So let's talk about the driving force of life. And the driving force of life is what we call abundant life. Okay. And I'm going to share this scripture from Jesus himself at the beginning. And he says something about the structure of life. He says, the thief does not come except to steal and kill and to destroy. I come that you may have life and life in abundance. Now, I really want to harp on this part because this is going to be your driving force of your life. This is going to be the thing that's going to push you to actually do these habits, to do the right things, to do things with money, to do things with your career, to do things in business. This is the stuff that's going to drive you. And you have to understand that there are two driving forces behind your life. There's one, there is an abundant life, or what I call a lasting life. That's what you're trying to head to. Every person wants to end their life's destination having lived an abundant life. You want to look back at your life and say, I have lived. I have lived a great life. And it's like what Paul says in the book. He says, I've fought the good fight. I have kept the faith. I fought the good fight. I have stayed on course and I've kept the faith. Like, that's the thing you want to be able to look back and say that you fought for things that were really beneficial to this world. You kept your you stayed on a course of a mission that you were on, and you kept your belief for the everlasting life afterwards. These are things that really matter. When you're 85 years old, you see a lot of people look at life where they are, but they never adopt what I call the eyes of a dying man. Ask yourself, maybe speak to people in their 60s and 70s and 80s and ask them what they truly value. You realize the things that in your 20s and 30s you thought were important, on the deathbed of people or in the final act of a person's life, these things don't matter as much anymore. They're not as important. People now start thinking, what have I done that is of importance beyond my life? That is what people look back on. They look at impact, they look at legacy, they look at some important things. So I'm going to break this down of what we call the abundant life. But then what is keeping people from the abundant life? That's the biggest question I think we have to answer. What is actually keeping a lot of people from the abundant life, the target of the abundant life, or pursuit of the abundant life? That's a big thing that we all want to try and now deal with. So if you look at the Bible verse, and I'm going to go back to it, it says, the thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy. So let's start with that part. What is the thief coming to kill, steal, and destroy? My posit for everyone is the thief, who is the devil, or the evil one, or as we like to call it, the enemy, whichever terminology we want to use, is here to kill, steal, and destroy your time. It's actually something we all have to recognize, that the most valuable asset God has given you. And in this whole series, I'm going to talk about the 4 M's of money management, of the 4 money skills. I'm going to talk about the importance of time down the line. And you're going to learn it really strongly how important it is. But if you look very carefully at this part that says the thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy, the thief is coming to kill, steal, and destroy your time. And what does this thief do to kill, steal, and destroy your time? Well, it does 2 things. The thief distracts you, or he scares you. Those are the 2 things that the thief will do, the devil. What will do is he'll distract you and he'll scare you. And that's what I want as many people to understand, that distraction and fear are the 2 greatest thieves of your time. And I want to break it down into something I call the 4 pillars of financial freedom. Because what you need is you need to be freed from these fears, from these things that the thief will do with your time. Because the one thing the devil wants you to do is to die unfulfilled, is to die without fulfilling your destiny, to die without fulfilling your mandate, to die without fulfilling God's plans for your life. That's what he wants you to do. He wants you to die without all of that, and to basically die full of God's potential and no impact in the world. That's what he wants you to do. Okay? Now, in order to do that, he traps you with fear. So this here is something that we use in my world called the wealth pyramid. And the wealth pyramid breaks life into 4 things that you're supposed to do to manage your wealth. And that is manage your money, to reach your goals, to attain peace and freedom in order to pursue fulfillment. So those are like the 4 steps that you have to go through in life. You have to manage your money and manage your life so that you can achieve your goals and attain freedom. So it's just something that I want you to think about, because this is the framework with which I work in my field, but that I also, the lens with which I also understand the world that we're trying to pursue here. But here are the 4 fears. The 4 fears that the thief will put in front of you to scare you. Okay. The first one is the fear of meeting your needs. The number one fear that keeps everyone alive is, will I have food to eat tomorrow? Will I be able to move around? Like, if you don't have money for transport and you need to go to work, that keeps you up all night. It steals your sleep. You're tense all day. If you don't have food, or you're running out of electricity at home, should there even be power at Zesco, but if you're running out of electricity, you're terrified. You're thinking, where am I going to get money to put electricity? It robs you of your peace of mind. So the lack of life is one of the first attacks the enemy will put on you, the lacks of life. Okay. And that is why we organize ourselves financially, to make sure that we are able to meet our needs, because that lack of life will consume our minds. So the first stealing he does of your time is your needs. Then he starts to go after your loved ones, right? Your loved ones, your children, your spouse, your siblings, and your parents, the people who really are central to your life, your closest friends. Their well-being starts being tested, and that starts consuming your time. So you're looking at the second pillar you need to have freedom from, is you need freedom from worrying about the well-being of your loved ones. That's a very tense thing, because yes, once you've taken care of yourself, you're consumed with the well-being of your children. You're consumed with the well-being of your spouse. You're consumed with the well-being of your parents, your friends, the people who are really close to you. They worry you. Okay. And that is the second point of attack. Are you able to support the well-being of these people when something is wrong or something is needed? When your kids need food, can you feed them? When your spouse needs something, can you support them? When they're sick, can you help them? When somebody's in need, are you there to be able to help the people who really matter to you? Now, I'm not talking about the whole world. You take them on and take on the village. I'm just saying, are you able to take on the people who really matter to you? This is the second point of attack. And you're looking at making sure that you structure yourself towards being able to ward this off. Then the third fear that you are attacked with is the fear of not being able to maintain this. Okay. So what puts you at peace is, I'm able to take care of myself, and I'm able to take care of my loved ones. I can feed them, I can clothe them, I can transport them, and I can house them, or I can move them around, and I can take care of their health, a bit of their mentality, give them an education. If I can do these things, take care of myself and my loved ones, I'm at peace. I'm free from worrying. Now, the third freedom is the freedom that all of that, the fear that all of that will be taken away. Okay? That your ability to provide for yourself starts being taken away. This way you start worrying about job security. This way you start worrying about financial security. You start worrying about these things. And that worry that circulates, you go to your workplace, and now they're saying we're downsizing. You go to places and their workplace is saying we're not making as much profit. We may not be increasing salaries. Every day inflation is going up. Inflation is making your abilities to take care of your loved ones get lower and lower and lower. And the higher inflation goes, while your salary or your income grows slower, the more worry you're taking on. So you're literally getting robbed of your time by the economic environment. It's robbing you of that peace of mind. So these are the 3 areas of robbery: your lack, your loved ones, and your peace of mind. These areas are a strong attack for you. So the main thing they steal is your ability. The core thing the devil does when he's attacking you with all these things, life is attacking you with all these things, is your ability to allocate your time to pursue meaning. Okay? So that's I think that's the critical areas I wanted us to look at first when we're looking at this conversation about the enemy coming to kill, steal, and destroy. Okay, that's the critical conversation I wanted us to look at, of this enemy that'll come into our lives. And Jesus is busy saying, look, people, the enemy it's coming into your life to distract you. Because in eventuality, even the things you don't worry about, and I always tell people, all these things we're spending money and time on, it's a waste of our time, because one day we want to be robbed of our peace. Sorry, I think there was something you wanted to say.
How's the ring?
Oh, okay. Hey, so we call that an amen. No, I understand. That's an that's an amen. All right. No, the point is that you are having your time stolen from you, and your mind is being stolen from you, and your peace is being stolen from you. But what the enemy does first doesn't just directly attack you. What he does first is he gets you used to a lifestyle. So he starts spending on things that are frivolous. You're exerting all your money and you're making sure you're saving nothing, you're keeping nothing in storage, you're not being safe and wise with your money. And slowly but surely, he's gotten used to this lifestyle of as all your money comes in and you get lulled into this false sense of security. And then inflation hits or your job starts to shake. Now your life is consumed with fear. So the first step is to subtly lure you into a lifestyle where now he can plague you with fear. Okay? Because if you're not in that lifestyle, you're not easy to be plagued. So this is the first step of freedom is one, do not fall victim to that lifestyle. And I'm going to talk about that at the end about what happens in our knowledge state. But two, it's that to make sure that we have guarded ourselves. Utilize the wisdom of this Bible. It gives you a lot of financial wisdom of what to be able to do to avoid falling into these lifestyle traps and to be able to build the wealth that you can store up for the next generation, for safety, for planning, the things you should do. Even Jesus tells you to plan. Jesus actually had a scripture saying, for how foolish is it for a man to try and start a building and not plan, so that he fails to finish halfway. There is planning that is needed in all of this. So this is the first step I wanted to look at. The second one I want to look at is, well, let's say you've now acquired all this freedom. You're now free from worrying about your basic needs. You're now free from your loved ones. You followed the prescription, because the first thing you do with your money is you are running away from these fears. You get a job, you save money, you invest your money. So you make money, manage your money so that you can save it, invest it so that you can multiply it, and then you maintain it very well by protecting it for the purpose of making sure your money can meet your needs in case your job might not be able to. And that's your way of protecting. Your money can support any loved one's requirements, and you've secured it in such a way that you are not in a state of chaos and disorder. So let's say you've done all of this. Now your time is free, Njila. You've actually done all this. Your time is free. And so everyone here is, listen, you've now freed up your time. Your time is now unencumbered. Now, what is the freedom part? So let's go back to the verse, the second part of that verse. And Jesus says, I come that you may have life, and that you may have life in abundance, or more, have it more abundantly. So let's talk about what an abundant life is. What are you pursuing? So the three fears and the freeing up of your time is what you're running from. But what are you running to? And that's the concept of building your momentum for an abundant life. And so the three things you're running to are what I call the three pillars of fulfillment. And that is a legend, a legacy, and a lineage. Okay? So now these three L's are really important. And the first one is living a legendary life. And the legend is what you leave behind. Is the memory you leave behind. So when you pass on, what will we remember? Okay, that's your legend. What will be remembered by you? And there are five purposes of life that help you. Rick Warren has nicely put that out for everyone. The 5 purposes of life, or what will you be remembered for? The second one is what have you left behind physically that the world can benefit from or can build on? Okay, so what is it that you've left behind? And the third one is lineage. Who have you left behind? So it's what memory have you left behind? What things have you left behind? What people have you left behind? These are the 3 pillars of a fulfilled life. This is abundant life. To have lived a legendary life, to have left a legacy, and to have left a strong lineage. So now let's look at legend as the first line I want everyone to focus on. And your legend is broken down into 5 things. This is the 5 purposes of life. The legend that you leave behind is first for inspiration, okay? To become an inspirational story, a testimony to people around, to encourage them that when they hear of your story, Njila, or when they hear of someone else's story, whatever it is, when they remember your story, when you think about it, you are encouraged to be able to get through whatever it is you get through, that your life is an inspiration to others to get through the struggles, to get around the attacks they're facing. That when they think about trying to get out of debt, they think about how you got out of debt, and it inspires them to do so. They think about how you built your wealth, and it inspires them to do so. They think about how you had a great family, and you inspire them to do so. Are you an inspiring story? That is your first part of your legend. Legends are inspirational. The second thing is social connection. We call this fellowship, to develop meaning level 4 relationships with people, because the people who you deeply connect with will carry on your legend. They will carry you in their hearts. They will tell people about you. They will write about you. They will fondly remember you. They will memorialize you. The people who you made such a great impact on will walk their lives speaking of you and keeping you alive through their hearts. Okay, that's the important thing. So have you connected with people? Because that's a legend. A legend must have people to be left behind to tell the story of the legend. Okay, a legend is not quietly had. Jesus had 12 disciples who preached the gospel around the world so that they could now tell the world about him. So who are your social connections? Deep ones, quality ones that you've left behind. The third one is maturation. In other words, what have you done to in your character that people can look up to you? What would Jesus do? What would Njila do? In this situation, if people think about you, do they look at your character and say, I want to mold my life to be like that person? Paul even says, imitate me as I imitate Christ. He actually said that. So he was a character example that people could follow, and then they could continue. So he had a mature spirit. He had a mature character. So a legend is one that is inspirational, connected to people, and mature, or a character example that people can guide themselves and mold themselves off, or almost be mentored by. The fourth part is one that has an inner connection. You will be remembered for your walk with your spirituality, your pursuit of things higher than you, your pursuit of God, your pursuit of whatever you believe in. But for us, the pursuit of God. Okay, it is your walk with God and your pursuit of godly things are the things that you will be remembered for. Sure, you will have a nice car and a nice house to sleep in and all those things, and you would have lived life beautifully, and that's fine. But nobody's going to remember this part about you. They're going to remember the inner connection that you exhibited to people. And also, finally, the other part that we're looking at here, finally, is your mission and your contribution. In other words, what are you doing with your gifts and your talents to make the world better, to improve the world, to add to the world? What are you doing to do that? That is your mission and your contribution, and that is the second part of this is your legendary existence. And that's a very important part, because this drives you. This drives you to actually do a lot more, to live a full life. So look at these 5 areas of your life. I challenge everybody, including yourself, Njila. Go down and look at these 5 areas of your life. Is your story inspirational? If you passed away today, would people look at your story and say, wow, what a person? Wow, what a story. I can lean back on that story. Have you connected deeply? Have you just got a bunch of people around you who really mean nothing? Or have you connected deeply with people that if you pass away, they will memorialize you? The days of your birthday, they will remember. The days of your passing will really touch them. The memories they remember of you, they'll tell people about. They'll keep saying your name and keeping you alive. Okay, have you got people like that in your life? Or was it when you pass away, they're going to just move on with their existence and move on with everything? Have you a mature spirit that when people look up to you, they look at your character and say, how Njila did that, I'm going to do that? That's what counts. And are they an inner, did you have a walk with God that people say, I want to have that relationship with God. I want to have my spiritual side being fed like that. And did you leave a mark on this earth to say, he created that, she created that, she did this in their career, they did this, they changed this, they moved this, they united this, they brought happiness to this? These are deep questions you should be asking yourself when you're looking at your life. And this is a part of your existence that's really strong and really important. So if you're looking at an abundant life, the first step is a legendary existence. The second step is a legacy to leave behind. It is easy, Njila, for people to remember you when you've actually left something behind for them to remember you by, something physical they can touch and interact with. Because if there's nothing, it's very easy to forget people who leave nothing behind. It's very easy to forget people who, and I'm not saying it's just about the money you leave them with. It's important, yes, but they can burn through that money. But things that can last. So have you left buildings behind? Is there a family home that you built that has passed through 4 generations that people have managed to utilize? These are key things. Did you leave such stuff behind? Are there businesses that you left behind? Are there things that you left behind? Is there a stock portfolio? Is there a wealth portfolio? Is there a family trust? Is there a charity? What did you leave behind that the society and your family are going to benefit from or build on? Okay, because that's how you get remembered. There is I don't know if we spoke about this before. The oldest company in the world. I don't know if you recall this. I think we had a conversation, but correct me if I'm wrong. The oldest company in the world is a company called Congo Gumi, which is a Japanese company. Yeah, I think we remembered. Yeah, we've had that conversation. It's a Japanese company that has been in existence for 1,400 years, 1,444 years, and has passed through 43 generations of the same family. So think about the first one who built it. The first one who built it has left something behind that the next one built on, that the next one built on, that the next one built on. They have each built on something. So the name Congo Gumi has been kept going because something has been passed on that has been built on. And also, the society has benefited from the Congo Gumi Construction Company because whenever temples needed to be built, it was the Congo Gumi Company that has been doing it, which has been in existence to that group of people for 1,444 years. So it's meant something to the family, it's meant something to the community, it's meant something to everyone. So what have you left behind that means something to everyone? And that's a critical thing to think about. So you want to look at businesses, projects, institutions, assets, systems, innovations, memories, books. What have you left behind? Literature. What have you left behind that people are either going to consume and benefit from? And most importantly, if you really want to have a lasting legacy and live the abundant life, what have you left behind that people will build on? David left the land that the temple would be built on. Solomon was meant to leave behind a kingdom that his son could build on, but unfortunately they ended up misusing it because of the third part of a legend of a fulfilled life, which is lineage. You must leave behind moral and competent people to continue your work and continue your name. That is when people die in peace. You are able to die in peace. And I want you to think about this. People fear death the most. When you're dealing with estates and you're dealing with people's wealth and you're dealing with the final days of people, you will recognize that people's greatest fears is not dying. It's that they haven't lived enough. The greatest fear that they have in their life is not the act of dying. It's that they have failed to live and they're going to leave this earth without ever living. And they look back on their lives and say, I wasted everything. Okay? Everything. Because even Les Brown asks a simple question. He said, if you were given a diagnosis that you had 91 days to live, how many of you would make drastic changes in your life? In fact, let me throw that question at you, Njira. If a doctor came to you today and said, Njira, you have 91 days to live, would you make drastic changes in your life? Would you continue living as you are?
No. Definitely not.
That's usually the answer. Most people will not continue living the exact ways they are. They would make drastic changes. So it is an important fact that you want to leave these 3 things behind: a strong memory, a strong legacy. So it's a memory, the legacy, and the lineage. You really want to leave this legend, legacy, and lineage because these are going to be the driving forces. So whenever you're doing goal setting, financial goal setting, anything, it is imperative that you recognize that everything you're doing, whether it's saving money, investing money, managing money, everything is not for the purpose of having piles of money around you, but for the purpose of having a legend, a legacy, and a lineage. That is the purpose. Your financial freedom is the key to unlocking your pursuit to these three things. That is why you fight for that financial freedom. So now I want to look at some of the things that people go through in terms of this. So we've talked about this, and the question is, why do people struggle with this? Well, the first thing I'll tell you is it's actually captured in a wonderful passage of scripture, John 8:31-36. And I'm going to read it out. And Jesus was speaking to Jews and he was speaking to the Jewish people, and he was talking about his purpose again. So that first time Jesus says, I come that you may have life in abundance. But this time he's talking about freedom, the importance of him freeing you and how you can be freed. So how do you get this freedom so that you can pursue? And he unlocks us beautifully. And one of the reasons I talk about these things with Jesus is because Jesus speaks about the human condition from the perspective of understanding us. He knows our psychology. He knows everything about us. So he speaks to us from this perspective. And the first thing he says to the Jews, to the Jews who had believed in him, Jesus said, if you hold my teachings and you are really my disciples, then you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. So the first thing we're looking at is, so one of the reasons, you're not going to live a fulfilled life is because you're not free. So why are you not free? Because you don't know the truth. Most people say, well, Munyumba, how do I get financial freedom? Well, the first thing you're being taught here is what you know is what sets you free. So if you want to know, if you want to have freedom in your finances, whatever it is, what do you know? That's the first question. What do you know? So if you know nothing, that's why at the bottom they have gotten there enlightening. If you are not enlightened, you are not going to be free. Okay, that's the reality of life. So the first step you need is to be enlightened. So you need knowledge. Knowledge will set you free. What do you know? What do you know? And also he says, if you hold my teachings. So the question is, what have you been taught, you know, and you're applying? You will then know intimately, and that truth will set you free. Okay, that's the reality, the truth. That's why I always tell people, when you want to change your life, you have to change your identity, you have to change your attitude, you must change your focus, and you must change your principles. Because what you know and what you believe to be true is what you will act upon and what will set you free from the problems you are facing. So the first step is knowledge. Now, one of the reasons, the barriers to knowledge, is ignorance, that people are thinking that they're okay. Most people financially are in a dead zone because they are ignorant. So I want to get to the second part of this conversation, how they resisted Jesus. And they answered him and they said, we are Abraham's descendants. We have never been slaves to anyone. How can you say you are here to set us free? When you look at this case and you sit down with people and you want to go through that, I was like, I'm fine. My job pays for everything. And I keep telling people, if your job ended today, will you have everything you think you have? Are you free? Are you truly free? Or have you just taken your time from worrying and given it to an employer, but you've got no freedom? Because this situation is meant to be temporary. So what I've seen with a lot of people is they're ignorant and they even start defending their ignorance. So there is a need to change what is happening. And then Jesus replies, verily true, that and I tell you that everyone who sins is a slave to sin. And now a slave has no permanent place in the family. I want to talk to you about this final part, is that people who are, if you are caught in spending cycles, you're often too ignorant to think. You're actually a slave to your impulses. That's actually what happens to people. You're enslaved by your spending impulses. You're enslaved by your bad habits. We're often enslaved by impulses and habits. And sin is nothing but our impulses. In fact, most of the sins that are categorized in the Bible is impulsive behavior. That's really it. It's impulsive behavior and reactions. That's if you are not able to think things through and act accordingly, you are impulsive and you are reactive. And that's often where a lot of sinful behavior comes from, and also a lot of financially frivolous behavior. So discipline is actually a very important component of all of this. Now, he said, if you are a slave to, if you sin, you are a slave to it. The reason you do this stuff is because you're a slave to it. The reason why, even though your income increases, you have to now start pursuing higher amounts of money, or you have to start spending on more expensive things, is because you're a slave to that lifestyle. I'm sorry, I think there's the rains have now caught us. So I think if you're hearing lightning behind, don't worry. But you are a slave to those impulses, those lesser impulses. But he says, Jesus then finally says, but a son belongs to the family forever. So if the son sets you free, then you will be free indeed. And I want to truly just amend that last part where he says, if the son sets you free. Jesus also at another time called himself the truth. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. So if the truth sets you free, you are free indeed. I want you to remember that, because it is about knowing the truth. Because he said it at the beginning, if you know my ways, you know the truth. So if you know the truth about something. So this is what I want as many people to recognize. One, you must enlighten yourself, because once you do, once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. That's a critical thing that we all have to know. So finally, I want to go through, something for everyone to try and look at. Now you know your fears. You know that your greatest fear is not being able to feed yourself, clothe yourself, move yourself, house yourself, and lay yourself down. That's your great fear. And also with the well-being of your loved ones and securing your needs and the well-being of your loved ones. That is your greatest fear. Okay? You know that. Now, the question is, how do you program yourself so that you run at optimal momentum? Because I don't think you must be ignorant of these fears. Do not ever live ignorant of fear. Do you know, Njila, you can actually program fear to make you run faster? I want you to think about this. Think about, and I love, this is a portion where Jesus was talking to, this is Matthew 16:23. Jesus is talking to Peter. And Peter is telling him, Lord, if they come and take you, I'm not gonna let them. And Jesus has a mission. He has to get to the cross. Okay, the cross is his mission. That's his life's work. Everything is about him getting to the cross. And he's not going to let anything get in the way of him getting to the cross. What does he tell Peter when Peter wants to get in the way of him getting to the cross? Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block. Okay? You don't have in mind the concerns of God, merely human concerns. It's actually a very important way to look at things. The things of fleshly concern, and I'm not saying you can't have luxuries in your life. We're going to talk about this when we talk about managing money, okay? Managing and budgeting your money. We're going to talk about where luxuries come into and why they can be important. But I love what he said. He says, get behind me. You can program your fears to actually be behind you to scare you to move forward. You can actually do this. You can program, because you can tell yourself, I am building my life. Most people are actually driven by fear. The two strongest driving forces of a person, are fear and desire. If you want someone to get in motion, fear and desire and fear are two of the strongest emotions that a person has. And if you want to move yourself, you have to ask yourself, what are the fears that I have that I can put behind me to make me never go back to those decisions? And what are the desires I have that I can put in front of me? So the things of God, what are the desires? Remember, so it's very simple. I've told you the three fears. Put them behind you. Always remind yourself that the things you're trying to do are about making sure that you never have those fears pursuant in your life. And secondly, in front of you, you put your legacy, your legend, your legacy, and your lineage. The things you are desiring deeply, the things that in your final days you'll say, that's what I want to achieve. That's what I want. So I want to just help us program all of this in our minds. And the best way to do it is to look at this simple image I've put. And I know it's a bit of a funny image, but this is how it looks like for people who are running the race of life. And you're trying to run this race of life. And you lack resilience because, one, you lack resilience because there's nothing driving you. You're blocked. And there's this wall that has come in front of you called the fear of failure. You're afraid of failing. And you're afraid of pursuing all of this. You're actually afraid. So most people have a lack of resilience and a fear of failure that stop them from being able to run. So here's how you program yourself. This is the final part I'll put here. Program yourself to look at your life. Take the 3 fears of your life. The fear that you won't be able to provide for yourself, the fear that you won't be able to provide for the well-being of your loved ones, and the fear that all that provision that you're able to make will be taken away from you. That will make you make the right decisions. When you look at that thing you want to spend on, whether it's, I don't know, a luxury handbag, or I don't know, it's a night out that you're doing at the expense of doing the right thing, of saving and preserving and managing your things properly and being a good steward of the resources you are giving, being a good steward. Whatever it is that's distracting you, that the enemy wants to tell you, no, spend money on this, forget about your savings, forget about your future. You will start to look and say, if I do this, I am putting at risk my peace. I am putting at risk the things that I care about, my fear of being able to provide for myself, my loved ones, and my provide for myself, my loved ones, and also to protect that. You start to look at the spending of money and the spending of things as things that can jeopardize that. And that fear is the part that says, run from me. The 3 fears. Then the things you want to run to are your legacy. Put in front of you your legacy, your lineage, and your legend. Put those things in front of you, because those things will be the things you want to run to. So the desires will pull you forward, and the fears will push you forward. I want you to think about this. I want you to think about, there's a dark forest in front of you, but there's a castle or something you want to get to on the other side. You'll be reluctant to pursue that castle because you say, the darkness of that forest is scaring me. I don't want to pursue it. Because those 3 L's are scary. They're actually scary. Building a legend, trying to build a legendary life and a legacy, that's a scary thing to pursue. Okay, people think they're not up for it. Then imagine with me, Njila, in this situation, a lion comes behind you and starts chasing you. You're not going to stand still. You are going to run. You are going to run forward as far from that lion. So program your fears to be the lion behind you. Remind yourself that if I don't get to security, if I don't manage myself, if I don't use this wisdom to be a good steward, people, money is about stewardship. You must be a good steward of money. And stewards manage things, they preserve things, they grow things. The expectations of a steward is somebody who will do good with what they are given. Okay? It is not a crime to manage your money well. I don't know who put that in us Christians' mind, but that is not Christianity. Okay? If that was the case, we wouldn't be saying you are to be given the blessings of Abraham. Abraham was an excellent steward of money. Excellent steward of money. He grew everything, even in the desert. It said when Lot took the land from him, it said even in the desert, Abraham's flocks grew. Okay, he grew his money all the time. So if you are the blessing of Abraham, then why is lack something you're supposed to have? Who told you this? So this is a thing we all have to try and change. So be a good steward. That if you are not a good steward, you are leaving yourself susceptible to the thefts of time. The enemy wants to kill, steal, and destroy your time on earth, so that when it's time for you to expire, you have done nothing, you have left nothing, you've achieved nothing, you've left nobody. That is the point of life. That is the enemy's goal. He wants to make sure you die empty. Think about him. I want you to think very carefully about him and Jesus in the desert. The devil didn't threaten to kill Jesus in the desert. He actually offered him riches. He offered him wealth. Why? To distract him from his legend, his lineage, and his legacy. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to steal Jesus's time on earth so that Jesus would not fulfill his destiny. Okay? So that's a key thing I want you all to think about. So whenever you're doing your planning of your life, if you want to have the momentum to operate, because most of your outcomes, be it financial, be it business, be it entrepreneurship, whatever it is, most of your outcomes are a result of the energy you are going to put into things. And for you to run with the full-fledged energy we are talking about here, that was in that picture, it is mainly going to come from a fact that you have put in front of you the lasting and abundant life that is supposed to be, and you have put behind you, put those things behind you, the fears that you are facing. No longer face them, put them behind you to propel you to run away from that life. It's because frivolous spending, all these things, it's going to lead to nothing but emptiness. Okay? I'm not saying you can't enjoy a luxury here and there. And we're going to talk about it, like I said, in managing money. So in the next 3 weeks, the 3 topics you should look up for are now the 4 money skills. What does the Bible say about the 4 money skills? The second one we should talk about is making money. How do we make money? How do we create wealth at the first point, which is making money? What do we do? And the third one we'll be talking about is managing money. And then after that, we'll go into multiplying and maintaining. What does it say? And what should we as Christians start looking at in those areas? But today I just wanted to talk about that driving momentum force, that you're running away from your fears and you're running to lasting life. And I want to leave that with everyone. Sorry, I think we missed that part.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to everyone. And God bless. Have a wonderful day. And if you'd like to join me on my 12 weeks, I'm all here for everyone. You'll be hearing about it. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy.